Welcome to the Early Educator Podcast. We talk about everything that you need when it comes to growing your business, overcoming obstacles, and making an impact on not only the children in your care, but to your community and your family. My name is Blake, and with me to my left today, we have Cinta Hester, the Executive Director of Our Daily Bread CACFP. And today we have a guest. We have Kayla. Kayla is with Our Daily Bread as well. She is the Public Relations Specialist. So Kayla, thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I know it's been a minute since we made a podcast, but we're here and we're glad to be back and doing these again. So I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to check out our other episodes as well. We have plenty of other episodes. We talk about different topics and all that. And we're excited for the future and what else we got coming up for you guys. And so, yeah, today's episode, like we said, Kayla's with us. She's our public relations specialist. And so with her, she deals a lot with just our overall relationships and partnerships we have with other educators. Not just educators, but mainly like other companies, businesses, organizations, and stuff like that. And so, and Kayla graciously volunteered to come on the podcast just to talk a little bit about just this topic specifically and how it can it can help you all as educators in your field in different ways, in very different ways. And so one of the things that I've heard a lot in my life so far, I'm gonna be 30 this year. I can't believe I'm gonna be 30. 3 decades. It's happening. Anyway, one thing I've heard, I'm definitely what some people say young, but I'm not. I can say I have a little experience now. I'm getting there. I'm getting to that point. But one thing I have heard a lot is they say that life isn't just about what you know, but it's about who you know. Mm-hmm. There's a lot about connections, things like that. And so I think Kayla will be the perfect person to talk about this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, Kayla, I guess the first thing I want to ask, one thing that you said was important when asking you about this topic was like establishing like a healthy like rapport and like relationship with like for educators to be like parents and businesses kind of. And so, I was wanting to see if you kind of elaborate on that and kind of give like what your thoughts on that and how they can have good relationships and stuff with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, it seems like two different things, right? You've got relating to your parents over here, relating to your community over here, and then the BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal of having partners, community partners over here. Yeah. At the end of the day, though, it's all kind of the same concept. It's about establishing a relationship, keeping things relational and not transactional, and then nurturing that relationship over time. So what does that look like? With parents, it's just about getting to know them. It's about making sure you understand their needs and their wants and how those kind of intersect when they're interacting with you as a business. Mm-hmm. But then it looks really similar to that too when you are a business approaching other businesses wanting to work together. It's about knowing them and letting them get to know you and building that foundation of trust over time.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. This is one thing I've heard too. That I thought really made sense was I was at a conference once and they were talking about that. They're talking about our relationship with like the people you work with or people who might potentially do business with you. And he said like they may not remember everything that you say, but they'll definitely remember how you made them feel. And so, that's a really good point. Really good point. Oh, do you have anything?
Well, and I think too, in building those relationships, and like Kayla said, it's being relational and not transactional. And in doing that and building that relationship, you build their trust. And that's what it's all about too, is them learning to trust you learning to trust them, and just having that mutual understanding in all that. So I totally agree with what both of you said.
Mm-hmm. And there's no such thing as a small relationship either. You never know who in your network is going to come around and be able to help elevate you to the next level. Mm-hmm. It could be just a parent of a toddler you have as a drop-in twice a week. You never know. That's why you never want to burn any of those bridges if you can. But I hate to even think of it that way. You just want to lift up everyone you can in that relationship, as many relationships as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's definitely true. So with that, with those relationships and having those relationships with like different parents or different people in business or whatever, with that, like we just said, can come with like partnerships and stuff like that. And so how exactly can someone get involved with having a partnership and like building like a partnership with somebody? Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, I'd say there's two ways to approach that. You can look for existing networks that will help you connect to others, or you can start from scratch. Those existing networks are really a lot easier to get your foot in the door with. I know throughout Tennessee, and there may be some in Kentucky, I'm more familiar with Tennessee though, there are this new idea of shared service co-ops that a lot of educators are taking advantage of. These are partnerships of businesses, nonprofits, daycare homes, childcare centers that say, hey, we all know each other, we all have services we can offer to each other, we'll give each other a discount within this shared service co-op. Getting to know someone inside one of those co-ops is a great way to meet others that also are looking for partnerships, as well as see what things you may be able to give back to the community. That's not the only way to get your foot in the door, though. If you want to start from scratch, the most important thing to do is look for someone that shares your vision and focus on that. If you are trying to partner with a business, if you are trying to even just market in general, you want to make sure that you're never entering into a partnership where your visions don't align. Never works out in the long term.
Okay, yeah. I never thought about that. Thinking as far as like the vision too. Yeah. Cool. You have anything else you want to say about that, or partnerships, or anything? So.
Yeah, I guess I would just bring it back to nurturing the relationships once you have them. Partnerships are three parts to me. It's building your network, then it's identifying the people within your network that would make strong long-term partners, but then it's also nurturing the relationships that you have. Don't let those fall to the wayside because you're so focused on going out and finding the next person to talk to. Your existing network is so important. It's kind of like when we were kids, the golden rule, make new friends but keep the old.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that.
Yeah. I like that. Cool. Yeah, that's good. Cool. So, I know one thing you mentioned as well. You mentioned that you want to talk about like kind of like our choice of words that we use. And so, could you go some more in that, like about using like what words to use, what diction to use, things like that?
Sure. So word choice and diction are so important, and even tone too. You never know how someone may receive what you're saying, so the onus is on you to make sure that you're watching that and on it when you are speaking to an employee, speaking to a teacher, speaking to a parent. Anything you can say and the way that you say it may stick with them. And there's an old saying I like that is, the tree remembers what the axe forgets. If you say something a little harsh just once, or they take it that way, you may not even notice, but they'll remember. They'll always remember, and that will stick with them. I think this is especially important when you're communicating online or sending out an email, because it's so much harder to convey tone over email than it is when you're sitting down one-on-one talking to friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point.
And speaking to the point of, you have different partners, or you have different community connections, to know those people. Once you develop those relationships and develop those rapports, it is important that you get to know each of them, because each of them are different. Their needs are different. Your relationships with them are different. And so once you do establish them and get to know them, you have to know, when you're making those connections, whether it be through phone or through email, like you said, and when you make those communications, and it's so hard nowadays because you got email, you got text, you got all these different forms of communication, and when you do communicate, sometimes it can be relayed wrong, or the exclamation, or the all caps, or the so you do need to be careful the way you communicate with them. And you do really need to, once you get to know those partners, know how to relate to them and know how to communicate with them, because each person is different, each relationship is different, so you do have to be really careful in the way you communicate with them, and the way your visions, your missions, your things like that align with each of them. Like Kayla said, when you reach out to them, know what their vision is, know what their mission is beforehand, and don't waste their time or your time if your missions and your visions don't align.
It's well said, and I'll even add on to that too. You want to meet people where they are. You want to find where they are and meet them there. We had recently, I had been trying to secure this partnership for about 3 weeks, and normally I'll start out, if it's someone already in our community, just with an email. We've probably already chatted before, maybe met at an event. This was someone like that, and I just could not figure out either who to email or what to put the subject line as to get them to reply to me. And it'd been 3 weeks trying just to get someone to open it. I finally went down in person and managed to find the person to talk to like that. So if one method of communication isn't working out for you, don't be afraid to pivot. You have to meet people where they are and understand what form of communication works best for them.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Where I try to email somebody, call somebody, and respond, and I just be like, well, I'll just chop it up. I guess it didn't work. But yeah, that's pretty awesome though. They managed to pivot and go down there. That's just really cool. Really
and
good.
understand that relationship building takes time sometimes. I mean, sometimes, relationships, they just click and there it is, but there's other times relationship building, it sometimes takes time, and you even making that communication and you're talking back and forth, emailing back and forth, but still to build that relationship and to build that trust and to build on that sometimes takes a while, because how long, if you think about it, how long does it take you to trust someone or you to build that relationship with someone? Your person. So think about how long it's going to take them to trust us as an organization, or as a parent leaving their child at a child care facility. That takes a tremendous amount of trust. So that's what we all have to keep in mind in these different relationships that we're building, or different people that we're entrusting for different things.
Yeah, definitely true. Yeah, maybe makes me think of too when you talk about the people messaging in all caps and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll look at something and somebody will message me and they'll like they'll use like simple proper grammar, like putting a period at the end of a sentence, and I see that period and I'm like, what does that mean? What is that? He put a dot at the end. It's funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's funny how texting has become its own language in a way. But yeah, let's be really careful of that. One thing that Kayla does as well with us, and does a really good job of this, and is she deals with our like newsletters. She deals with newsletters that we have to go out and stuff like that. And so I know you mentioned the newsletters. I want to talk about that for a minute. And so what about the newsletter would you like to mention to everybody? What are they and how they can help?
Yeah, absolutely. So a newsletter is what's going on in your business, what's going on directly related to your business and your community, and what you think the audience of that newsletter needs to know right now. That's why I wanted to bring it up too. It all ties back to that idea of audience, knowing your audience, knowing the people that you interact with as a business on a regular basis. Your newsletter should cater to them. It should not be written to, I mean, it is a marketing tool, but that's not its sole purpose. It's written for the audience to inform them and to help them. Ultimately, it's a tool of theirs, not necessarily a tool of yours.
Okay.
So that's the approach I try to take with our newsletters here. I want to make sure that the information in them is something relevant to the people opening them, in this case, our educators. I want to make sure it's not too long. They've got busy days, heaven knows, starting at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. sometimes. And I want to make sure that it gets in front of them at a time they can read it. We try to send them out around 5 or 6 a.m. so they could read it over breakfast before they open their facility for the day. Get to know your audience when you're looking at your newsletter, if you are thinking of making one or if you already have one, and figure out, again, how to meet them where they are. What information do they need to know versus what do they want to know? What will they actually engage with? Balance those. Make sure it's an even mix of both. That's the way to make it the most engaging. I'd also add, too, track how you're doing and then adjust what you're doing if it's not working. Never be afraid to pivot. It's not a failure. I do that constantly. Look back at what I've done in previous months or even 1 month ago, and I'm like, oh man, that worked so well. What did I do differently? Why did that work well this time? How can I do it that way again?
Yeah.
So keep an eye on those. Keep an eye on your metrics.
Yeah, it's really good. How can somebody, like, say they want to do a newsletter? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. How can somebody find out exactly what their audience would need to know? Do you have any suggestions for that? Sometimes somebody want to, and they're like, but I don't even know where to start, what to put in it. Do you have any recommendations on that, and how to kind of find out what they may want to know, or how to get the information?
Yeah, picking your content's so hard. It's definitely hard. That's probably the hardest part, is choosing the topics. Writing about them, that's the easy part. Nailing down what you're going to include is the most difficult part of the process. For me, when I'm sitting down, I think about, okay, what is urgent? What is brand new and has not been published anywhere else? And what is relevant? You'd think relevant and urgent are the same thing. They're really not in this context, though. If something is urgent, let's say it has to do with the fact you're going to be closed for the next week. You know that your parents usually open these emails, if you use an email newsletter, more than they check your Facebook page. You want to make sure that you get out to them that you're going to be closed. Or if the news is bigger than that, what if you're moving to a new location or opening a second location? That's urgent. You want to make sure that you get it out right there at the top of the page for as many people to see as possible. Something relevant, though, could be that there is a community block party going on that kids get in free to that's benefiting a local nonprofit. Parents will care about that. It's something safe for their children to do outside of school. And they'll want to know and come and know that you endorse it too. It's part of that community building trust. Your endorsement matters to them. Using your newsletter as a way to get that across both strengthens your relationships with your community and with the audience of the newsletter, because now they know, oh, I can look here for credible information about what's going on around me.
Okay, yeah. That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Because that's a tough part, coming up with what to put in anything. Even with like social media or whatever, it's a hard thing to do. Yeah, it's really good. Really good advice, for sure.
And I think it's great, and it's important that it is something that's distributed first thing of the day, before the busyness starts of dropping off children, greeting parents, getting their facility ready for the day, grocery shopping, those types of things. Those are leaving their homes, or those that are, working inside of their homes even. So I think it's a perfect time. And like you said, it's a very intentional time of distributing that, and the information that is in it is really pertinent. I love the fact that you said urgent and necessary. Was it the two that you would think are the same, but aren't? They're very different. And I kind of looked at those as the same now, to be honest, until you explained it that way, really, so that's great. That's really good information.
Yeah.
To bounce off that too, if you want to catch your audience where they are as an educator, time it for when parents are going through the pickup line at school. If you know that a lot of the parents at your facility have school agers, aim to send out that email at 3:15 p.m. instead of in the morning. Mornings are crazy as a parent. They're probably not going to slow down to read it.
Yeah.
I know the parents have time during pickup line, though, or when they're sitting there hopefully getting to the pickup line soon, but it's been 30 minutes and they've got their phone out. Figure out what works best for your audience and customize it to them.
Yeah. That's
Give
really
them
good.
some really, really catchy titles. Don't just title it newsletter, something that's really, really catchy, that's going to catch their attention, and when they open it, they see it's the newsletter. Then you have those really interesting articles that they can read within the newsletter. That really will be interesting for them.
That's a really good point. There's a journalism saying, don't bury the lead. If you've got a really big topic in your newsletter that month, make it the subject line of the email. Say it right then and there. More people will open it. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you say it, that's a really good example. Because if you call it like newsletter number 8, instead of calling it that, you could just say like, I don't know, like if we had one like, there's a new waiver out or something like that. People would read it. They'd just find what that is. Yeah, for sure. That's a really good point.
Free money, something. Something really
important. Open now.
You say interesting, not scammy. Now.
Well, good point.
I'm messing. I'm teasing. Okay. Oh goodness. But yeah, for sure. But yeah, these are really good topics. Really good to the point subjects too. Is there anything that you wanted to mention about that? Anything else that we might have skipped over or anything that you want to talk about?
Let's see. There is one idea that the phrasing for it's a little weird, so bear with me here for a second. A lot of what we've talked about today can be thought of as under the umbrella of your external marketing. It's about reaching out to your community, building relationships with them, reaching out to parents, building relationships with them. An equal part of your partnership mindset, though, and of your relationships should be something called internal marketing. It should be your relationship with your employees, with your teachers, with your helpers. They're the biggest advocates for your business. If you can help turn them into an advocate or an evangelist, if you want to think of it that way, they will help build you so many partnerships and relationships you may not receive otherwise, and they'll drum up your business more than you would expect. Nurturing relationships definitely isn't just for parents. Making sure your morale is good around your facility, making sure you understand your employees' wants and needs will serve you and them in the long run.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And that's one thing that I think is very important, is making sure that you take time to, like I said, to listen to people working within your company too. And just to listen to them if they're having a bad day or having a bad attitude about something. I think it's really good to kind of get a pulse on that and help them, like you said, build a morale and stuff like that. Not only will they appreciate it, but like you said, then if they're in a better mood or whatever, then they'll become a really good representation of like your business and stuff. Yeah,
and word of mouth is so important. It can start with your own employees.
Yes.
They can just be at the grocery store and see someone who, is struggling to find help, struggling to find childcare right now. If they get that word of mouth out there, it's your foot in the door. It's someone else coming to your facility. Start right there with them. You don't necessarily need a giant marketing plan if you have that word of mouth component.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like you said too, it trickles to the external marketing too. For parents, if you give parents a good morale boost and you're positive with them, have a good relationship with them, they have people parents have friends who are parents, some do, and so when they talk to them, they're like, hey, where's your kid go? Then that could be the first place they go. If you think about it, you want them to be able to say, oh yeah, I go to Blake's Little Angels and it's a great place. They could either say that, or they could say, "Oh yeah, my kid goes here, but I wouldn't recommend. We've had some situations lately, or the attitudes aren't great." You don't want you to ever hear have someone say that, and so it's always good to treat everybody, just really well and with respect, and if people remember for sure, yeah.
And what we all have to remember too is whether you're working in a child care, daycare facility, or you're working for a company or an organization. Being able to do that, to boost that morale and work together as a team, and to really make internally your team happy, and to work together toward that common goal. Ultimately, the children win, regardless, and that's what we're all working for. And so we have to figure that out internally, some way. We all have to do. We all do. We have to figure that out because we want the kids ultimately to be the winners in this. That's what we work for. We don't work for each other. We don't work for, our boss. We don't work for the management. We work for the team. I mean, the team works for the kids. That's ultimately what we're pressing for is the kids.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. So, see, is there anything else that you all want to mention, or Kelly, want to mention or anything?
I think that's about it for me.
All
Was
of it?
there anything else y'all could think of?
No?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Those are really good topics.
Yes, they
really
are.
good.
Yes.
And so yeah, if you just heard this podcast, $5.99. But that's I'm just joking. No, but no, for real, this is really good information. I highly recommend going back and listen to this again if you did. It's really good information that can really benefit you, and it's a huge thing, creating relationships, and it's about who you know, for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And Jacinta, Kayla, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank
a
you.
good time. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys right here soon. We'll have some more content coming out for you all. And so, yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time.